Welcome to Inside the Firm, a podcast dedicated to small business owners and hosted by entrepreneurs, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko. Each week, they take you on their journey of how to start, run, and grow a business by bringing you inside their architecture and real estate development firm. Get a behind-the-scenes tour of how these business leaders manage their clients and foster company culture while creating new and innovative projects. And now your hosts, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko.
Welcome to Inside the Firm. This is your co-host, Lance Cayko. I am filling in for Alex as far as the intro goes. Alex conducted a series of interviews at the International Builder Show this week. It's the third week of January in 2020, and he's down there in Las Vegas. He talked to a variety of industry leaders. I hope you guys enjoy all of the interviews. I actually thoroughly enjoyed them. But before we get into those, a few words from our sponsors. So this episode was brought to you by Dell. If you're an Inside the Firm member, and all of you are, you can save up to 45% during Dell's quarterly business sale. Save now on select laptops, desktops, servers, and Dell branded electronics and accessories. Shop now before the sale ends on February 2nd, 2020. Visit Dell.com/Inside the Firm to receive your coupon. Or you can speak with a small business advisor at 1-800-757-8442 and reference your member ID number 530015704759. Again, that's call 1-800-757-8442 and reference your member ID 530015704749. This episode was also brought to you by ArcCat.com. Let's say your boss asks you to put together the CAD details for your firm's next project. What's your next step? Is it using basic internet search only to find outdated or incompatible details? Grabbing the details from the last project and hoping they fit in? Well, there's an easier, faster, and less stressful way to get the information you need. That's right, ArcCat.com. ArcCat is the #1 most used website for finding building product information and has over 15,000 CAD details based on real manufacturers' products. Use their powerful search engine to find the right files for your project. Best of all, it's free. You don't even have to register. Just go to ArcCat.com, that's ARCAT.com, and start building better content today. And without further ado, here's your host, Al Gore.
Okay, we're here at the first interview. Just got through at the International Builder Show. I'm Alex Gore. I'm here with Pete from Quakezone. And Pete, hold up the microphone basically almost like you're eating it. So like as close as me.
Very well.
And Jason and I were walking around, and we saw they basically built a structure, just to give you an idea of it. And typically how you frame, this is a sheathing product that we're talking about. Typically the sheathers don't listen to you, and they frame however the hell they want to.
That's a fact.
And right on the bottom he has a filler strip, which is normally how we do it, and we might even do a 4x8 so that it overlaps the next level.
Right.
But it looks like from First Tech's Quakezone has made perfectly sized OSB sheathing panels to fit the structure.
That's exactly right. What we've done, Al, is we've taken a longer length approach to the wall assembly such that the panel would span from
Closer.
the panel would span from the mud or the sill plate up over the joist, up over your bottom plate, and up your precuts, 92s, 104s, or 116s, such that the top edge of the panel actually lands halfway up the top plate of the double top.
Right.
And the reason we do that is that we also make a right length panel for the second floor that ties into that top plate such that you get proper shear transfers between a common framing member.
Yep.
What this eliminates is the need for any panel blocking here, as well as
nice.
having to come back and cut filler strips to cover your rim board. And the net effect of all this is that we're able to reduce air infiltration into the home by up to 60%. And this was tested by the NHB's Research Center. As well, it speeds your construction, it eliminates waste, it eliminates these blocks on the interior walls, which allows you to speed up your other tradesmen, such as electricians, plumbers, etc.
Have you had any experience? I think some inspectors, since they're old school, they might say you need blocking at 4 foot anyways, but has that ever came up and you said, no, we don't need it because we're not basically securing at that point?
No, you absolutely do not need it unless you're exceeding 10 feet in height for fire restrictions.
Okay.
At a 4-foot blocking, if you had 4x8 sheets and you were to turn your panels horizontally as opposed to vertically, which we're suggesting, you would have to block at all panel joints to get a proper nailing edge for shear transfer along that panel joint, right?
Right.
So you can see if we move on the inside of the structure here.
Yep.
What
We're
doing,
walking in, they basically built a little house here, which is kind of cool. So we're on a platform and they have TJIs above, and what is this, is 9 foot?
Actually, the lengths on this are varied based on the wall plate height. So again, in this example where you've got a raised wood floor with eye joists, it's designed to be a longer length panel to lap over the eye joist all the way down, as I said earlier, to the mud plate.
Yep.
And span all the way up to the top plate. This is common framing where you'll see the panels just aren't quite long enough. A 4x8, a 4x9, or a 4x10 don't necessarily reach perfectly, and it creates the need to have to do some interior wall blocking.
Yep.
That'll slow down your installation as well, as you see over here illustrated.
Well, electrical too. I've been on the job site. Jason has too. But I don't know if you ever had a patch, where they mess up or you need to put. They have an outlet here, but the water needs to go there, or vice versa. There's
many times.
Yep. And
here,
going
like
through
this.
Exactly. Yeah, I've done that. So he's showing a plate over a plumbing PVC
where they block or cut through the top plate, or they'll cut bottom sections of eye joists and some of the HVAC ductwork, and it's just not good structurally for the home. But
so what would be the process? So let's say a builder is going to use your product, and typically they'll have, we'll just say nominal 9 foot, 10 foot, maybe let's just keep with those numbers, maybe 8 foot.
Yep.
They order from you and it's already, the math is already there, or do they have to look at the drawings? Because it's pretty typical sticks. Do you have 3 typical sizes?
Yeah, we do. We have for 8 foot, 9 foot, and 10 foot wall plate heights. We've designed it initially to work with 11 and 7/8 inch joist steps.
Yes.
Such that, because that's about 90% of what we see in the Colorado market. So these panel lengths are 110 and 7/16 for 8 foot plate heights, 122 and 7/16 for 9 foot plate heights, and 134 and 7/16 for 10 foot wall plate heights. And that's, again, designed to land halfway up the top plate where you can tie the second.
And it's a double
panel.
top plate for people that can't see.
Yes,
Yep.
it's a double top, sorry.
Yep.
Such that you can tie the second floor wall panel in, as I said before, to get proper shear transfer between the 2 floors.
Yep. So the main question is, why hasn't this been done before, or how long have you been doing this? Is it harder to manufacture? What's it like? It just seems so obvious when we walked by that we had to stop you and start talking.
Well, the OSB has manufacturers have traditionally used 8 by 24 foot press sizes, which didn't lend well to cutting custom lengths because you would always have an offcut or waste from the very onset of your production, right? So why would you make panels that you have to cut and throw away? So we went to a continuous press where we can essentially design the cuts where we want them. So you have to run it a little bit slower, so that costs you production and efficiency as well. And we charge a very minimal few pennies a square foot more for the Quakezone product versus a 4x8 sheet.
Yep.
However, that's more than offset by the elimination of blocking, 2x4 or 2x6 blocking for your interior walls, metal strapping. If we move to the outside, I can
let's do it.
Metal strapping between floors, again, for proper shear transfer, as you see here. We can eliminate that. We can eliminate the need to have to get up on a ladder and cut a filler strip for the second floor rim board.
Yep.
By using the right length panel.
Yep. And he's pointing to vertical stripping in between the floor boxes, attaching the wall sheathing to each other. No more of that. I've seen that plenty of time. Done it plenty of times.
Yeah, it's all about efficiency and speeding up the framer's ability to frame the same home faster by using a panel designed to work with the components in the home.
Yep.
Again, 11 and 7/8 is what we predominantly designed for in the Colorado market, and 8, 9, and 10 foot. So we can mix and match because we've already got the panels. Say you did a 10 foot first floor and a 9 foot second, very common, or 9/8, for example. We've already got the panel lengths cut to the proper length such that you can install or mix and match and buy it from your distributor, just what you need, even the number of pieces to build your home with. And it's a lot faster, a lot less waste, a lot stronger wall assembly, more shear resistant in our high wind zones of Colorado.
Do you have information on that for the structural engineers when they are sizing? Because there's a lot of townhomes in Colorado. A lot of these skinny 3-story townhomes, and shear is always an issue.
Sure.
So is there any sort of thing that they can use?
Well, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll use the APA's Engineered Wood Construction Guide, and I can surely show you that and share that with you. But as far as it's got all the shear values listed for that. And one interesting thing, in the Colorado market, we predominantly sell a 7/16 inch thick product.
Yep.
But if you don't space your studs any further than 16 inch on center, you can use the shear values for 15-30 seconds, enhancing the overall strength of the wall by using no more than 16 inch on center stud spacing.
Gotcha.
If you go wider than that, that negates that.
Yep.
But that gives you a lot stronger wall assembly. And again, it's going to hold up better in our high wind zones and climate in the Colorado market.
Awesome. So we have listeners all over the U.S. and international, but so you're Canadian based, right?
No, I live in Denver, Evergreen actually. So I am.
Is the company though?
Colorado. Norboard is based in Toronto. Yes, sir.
Is that where everything's shipped from?
This particular product ships from Alberta, Canada. But we have mills in the southeast. We have mills all along Canada as well. We have 13 mills in North America and 1 in Scotland.
Yep. If someone from anywhere in the U.S. wanted to look or get a hold or buy your product, where's the first place that they should go to start looking for it?
Well, I always tell them to start with their existing distributors. I hate to have people have to go to a whole new distributor just to buy our product. We work with Home Depots. We also have wholesale distribution set up, such as Boise Cascade, for example, that can ship to your current retail or contractor yard dealers, such that they can get it delivered to your job sites.
So the first place is ask your normal chain, hey, can I get this? Can you get this for me?
Right.
And that's the way to start looking.
If you can't find it there, like I say, we have dealers listed on our website, as well as you can look on our website and contact the actual field marketing manager, and he can direct you to a wholesaler that can get the product to the distributor or dealer of your choice. Sorry.
Awesome. So any last parting words, Pete?
Well, as I said earlier, it's all about efficiency and being able to build a better home more quickly and reducing waste. That's what Quakezone is all about. I think once a builder uses this product, I think our success rate is about 99%. They don't go back to 4x8, 9, or 10. So it's a wonderful opportunity to speed up production, have a cleaner look to the home, have a stronger home, frame faster, for essentially the same net cost to the builder.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate you showing us around and telling us about your product.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Okay, I am here at Solar Innovations with Eric, and what kind of made us stop is, one, we might be doing a greenhouse, pool house kind of building here pretty soon, but I've always thought the greenhouses are cool. I've always thought sunrooms are cool, and you guys have a really nice modern look, which is awesome. You also do some more decorate. This is more, I don't want to say Victorian style. I don't know if you have a name for the different styles that you have.
Yeah, and
but do you have different product lines, different styles, or how does that work?
Absolutely. When we started in the business more than 20 years ago now, it was a very Victorian style market where we really looked into the conservatories as well as the greenhouses. Now, more in recent years, you get more of a contemporary look. With this display that we're standing in right now, you have a very good look at what it can look like contemporary at places, and then also a traditional feel at others. The sight lines certainly are 2 inches and can go deeper depending on engineering, and we can also
what do you mean by the thickness?
Yep. The depth of what you're seeing for the profile. You're going to have 2-inch sight lines.
What's the deepest depth you've seen, especially with some snow loads?
Some of the deepest that we've gone are 2x12. We certainly can do better, and then we also have inserts that we can put in for more stringent engineering needs.
But do you typically stay with the same width of 2 inches?
We try to stay with the 2-inch. We do have a 2.5-inch system that we use predominantly more for skylights because it has a condensation gutter track that'll catch on the slope glazing.
Yep. So let's say an architect is drawing up a greenhouse. What's the step with working with you guys? What would they need to do?
Yeah, what's great with working with us is we actually are a design team as well. So if you have like even just a rough idea of design development, even schematic where, hey, we want to attach in a greenhouse, we can certainly work with that. We provide with our in-house engineering, even before the project starts, try to give a little bit of an idea of what you want to try to make it look like for the best bang for your dollar, as well as what we can do for operable ridge vents, windows, and we really help every step along the way.
Yep. So I was asking Lauren before we got to you. You also provide structural stamps as needed, and I thought the price was reasonable. It was $1,200 for a regular stamp, flat stamp, and $1,800 for a raised stamp. So the structural engineering can all go through you guys too, which is helpful, streamlined. We won't have to get our structural engineer involved. So that sounds like a great benefit also.
Yeah, it really is. The only exception to that is if you get to these oversized units and there's steel included, we can recommend where the steel is going to attach to our layout, but we don't actually provide the engineering on that portion.
Gotcha.
However, if it's a system that is only with our aluminum structure, then we certainly can provide that.
Good
all in one
caveat.
shop.
Can you talk about the windows? Is there different sort of glazing that people want or that you provide on the vertical planes versus the ceiling, or is it all the same?
It's a great question. The low E coatings, based on what you're trying to grow, or if the room's going to be more for people or plants, varies. There's different coatings. This one we're standing in right now has a low E 272, which is provided by Cardinal. And really the only difference between the 1-inch IGU and the vertical walls versus the 1-inch IGU being an insulated glazing unit and the sloped glazing is actually a PVB inner layer on the sloped glass. That way if you have a branch or something that breaks and crashes into the glass, it'll spider web, but it won't actually fall down. The glass that we use on the vertical sides also for a safety standpoint is tempered, so heaven forbid if a glass would break, it would shatter much like a windshield into 1,000 little pieces with non-sharp edges.
Yep. What do you see people typically using these for? Is it for greenhouses, pool houses, just sunrooms? Is that the typical, or are you seeing anything different?
A lot of what we see is certainly in those different aspects. Certainly when we do the Philadelphia Flower Show, we run into a lot of horticulturists that want a greenhouse that's working. So while we have a beautiful structure, they're predominantly worried about making sure that they can start their seedlings early or protect their orchids, during the harsh seasons and make sure that they still bloom from year to year. We also have a large market for especially European taste where they want a conservatory. They truly want a sitting room that feels more Victorian as we're standing in here. And then lastly, you have the sunrooms where they want a sunroom that's like off the back of their house attached, just an area to come and enjoy the sunlight.
Awesome. Any parting words? What way should people get a hold of your company or you if you want them to start the process if they're thinking about doing something like this?
Certainly to check out our website, solarinnovations.com. There's a lot of information just as an early going start, and then as well as a contact page to show. Or you can always call us at 570-915-1500. That'll go to an operator and she'll direct you accordingly.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, guys.
Jason and I just got out of the monthly economic dashboard. Well, that's actually wasn't what it was called. It was the growth and trend basically of housing. I don't remember.
For the year 2020.
For 2020, what the predictions are going to be, what's going to happen. And it was 3 economists, and they basically gave a rundown. I have a lot to go over, but I want to know, what was your biggest takeaway from that, Jason?
Well, the thing that really stood out to me the most was a little bit that we sort of talked about at the end of the Q&A. It wasn't really a major part of the presentation, was just sort of the main effect of regulatory burden in the construction business and how that equates to housing costs. And there's obviously tons of information about there that we spent most of the time going over as far as unemployment rates, growth rates, inflation, shortage of labor, all that kind of stuff that really directly involves labor or directly relates to the cost of housing and its prediction of growth. But then, there's sort of this underlying factor of like what it all has to go through, which is permitting and regulation.
Yep. Do you remember the numbers for it? Did you write it?
So they were saying for new builds, single-family homes, about 24% of the price of a house is from regulatory constraints or burdens, if you will. And some of them, necessary. It's never going to go to zero. That would be, chaos and whatnot. But that's fairly high. And then they said for multifamily, it's even higher at about 32%. So for apartments and condos and probably even some townhomes, you're really looking at a very, high cost of what you're living in going towards just the process of getting it built.
Yep. And I thought that was the second biggest point that hit me. The biggest point that he said was the hindrance to growth. So the number that they said was the average between the last recession and then the Great Recession. Growth was at about 3.5%. Past the Great Recession, it was about 2.2%, right? And the thing is that the exponential value of that over time is actually big. It doesn't sound like 1%, 1.5% is big, but it is actually pretty big.
Because when you talk about compounding year over year, eventually that becomes huge. And so when you're talking about a couple generations down the line, if you're constantly at a 3.5% instead of a 2% or a 2.5%, future generations are going to be far wealthier in that 3 and up bracket than the 2 and up bracket.
Yep. And the hindrance to growth were two things. Productivity growth is low, and then labor growth is low. The productivity growth, that's where I immediately thought about what you brought up, was, hey, we're planning something, a multifamily, and it takes 2 years to design and then a year to go in. The numbers are low. What we need, they basically starts per year of all housing is about, what we have right now is 9.2, 920,000. We need at least 1.1 to 1.4. So that's a difference of needing 300 to 500,000 more homes per year. So that's the productivity there is a big deal, and then lack of trained workforce in that productivity. And then second, going into that is the shortage of labor growth, of low immigration, and then low birth rates. So that's where there was a lot of good things about this. But basically what they're saying is that they see a steady but slower growth rate for the foreseeable future, like 5 years. And then before I kind of give my rundown of all the notes I have, do you have another item you want to bring up?
Well, I was just going to add into sort of the you were talking about the productivity and the time to get things through, but then also they were also talking about the shortage of available loans for builders, and with increased times to get things through the city, you have to hold that land for that much longer. You have to hold those costs for developing something that much longer, and it's kind of an increased cost there, but lending is only so available.
Yep. Some of the numbers that they gave was they see a growth in 2020. I think it was about 4.8% growth in the building market, a 2% economic growth, a 3% rents growth. Materials will basically be at the cost of inflation, which is about 2%. They had some risks. The odds of the recession greatly went down from last year. And this is what I wanted to ask, because they said it was as high as 40%. And I feel like it drastically went down. They said between 10 to 15, but they really underplayed any chances of a recession, would you say?
Yes, it really was just like, well, we're kind of in a clear zone, is what I was hearing from them. It's like it could still happen, but I think their concern for it was, there's much less risk, and I think they were just less worried about it, even if it did come. Yep,
because the yield curve isn't inverting anymore. The phase 1 of the China deals went through. Phase 2 is a bigger deal. But basically, and then the interest rates. So the interest rates on money, not on a mortgage, they think will stay in the last kind of year, which was between 3% and 1.4. And they think it's just going to go up some, come down some, and just kind of be within that range.
They were saying 2% was a pretty safe bet for inflation for the next several years.
Yep. So that's where they said mortgages for the next 5 years around 4%. Right now it's a little bit lower. They didn't say anything about going much higher than that.
No, they were talking about it incrementally increasing, but not really any, they're not predicting any major upshifts in that.
And that's where I think they see the steady 5 year period where we have such a deficit of housing, and housing is a big sector, and there's a lot of jobs out there, but the growth rate of the productivity and the labor isn't going anywhere. So it's not going to skyrocket and crash. It's just going to steadily go through.
Another interesting note that they made is, obviously they outlined this need for new housing, well, for housing in general, and the existing home market is fairly low. Like, just existing houses are not that available, so they're predicting more people to be pushed towards the new build sector. And, there's obviously, we talked about the 1.1 million needed, about 920,000 are predicted for 2020. But then they were also talking about this sort of mismatch between where people are moving to and growing and where houses are being built. And so, it's easy to look at what housing is needed on a, scale of the country, but then some places it's needed like way more because it's harder to build where a lot of people are moving. They talked a lot about Portland and Seattle and California where a lot of people are moving, but it's hard to build there. And so there's not as much building happening there. So it's like one of those things where it's like there's extra need in these hot spots in the country and housing's being provided, but they're not always totally matched.
Yep. And they ripped on California for a while.
They did. There was a lot of California
they went hard
rolling.
To the paint because California is trying to basically make as many houses as the U.S. makes.
Yeah.
But yet
that's what they say they want to do.
They want to do. Yet they still have the regulations. They still have this solar panel thing coming up. And again, we're not saying anything's bad. These are just economists who are saying they conflict with each other.
Yeah.
It's just not possible to up regulation, up the burden of that, and then create enough housing stock at a lower price that people can afford. They're just conflicting.
Yeah, and they were talking about, rent control. They're like, there's very few things that all economists can agree on, but they say 99% say that on the larger picture, rent control, it works for the people that are in the system, but the larger goal is to increase supply, and it doesn't increase supply.
Yeah, at all.
And so they're saying, it's kind of like, sure, it works in this sort of small ecosystem, but
like
for the larger
you personally,
picture, for you personally, someone might say, I love affordable, or I love rent control because my rent is, control, like staying where it is, and I can live. And so there might be a lot of people out there that are for it, but in the larger picture, when you're looking years down the road, it's not helping.
And I had no idea that he basically said flat out, all economists agree on this. It's almost a matter of science and fact. And it makes sense. We're not economists, but I get their argument for sure.
Yeah. And speaking of apartments, this was also quite fascinating. They said of the multifamily that's being built in the more apartment style, they were saying that right now about 93% of it is for rent. And
only
7% is condo, where historically it was about an 80-20 split.
Yes.
And so we've seen that gone way down, and they kind of casually mentioned litigation, but that was like the solid reason for that change, is that condos are so highly litigated.
Yep. The labor shortage numbers right now are 300 to 400K. They're going to stop getting worse, but they're not going to get any better. They're just, the past 3, 4, 5 years, they were just getting worse and worse and worse, and now they're catching up to a normal.
But also keep in mind, this guy said the same thing last year, and he admitted that as well. He thought, for 2019, it was going to plateau, and it wasn't going to get any worse, maybe not better.
Right. So, I think it was all good. It all made sense. I think the big keys are productivity growth, and I think it comes down to training, and then what kind of regulations you're going to, and then labor growth. If immigration can change, you're not going to change birth rates quickly, because if you do, it's still 20 years down the road.
Right.
And that's all leading to high demand, but not the highest output, so pretty steady for the foreseeable future, unless obviously things could go crazy. But it seemed positive. It seemed, there's difficult challenges to go through. But pretty steady.
Yeah, it was very, there was no doomsday talk during that whole time. It was just kind of like, we're going to see a lot of what we've seen in the past year, maybe on a slightly lesser scale, but, it's just still going, still developments will be made, and then, we'll just see where efficiencies pop out, if it's in building production or building technologies or all that kind of stuff.
And a lot of the growth they saw was in the south and the west. The hottest two markets are Denver and Houston.
Dallas and
Dallas,
Houston.
you're right.
Yep.
Yes, thank you. Dallas and Houston, and that has to go with, I think they have a low burden, and even Houston, some of the zoning regulations are not that stringent at all. It's still a great city. So if you're looking into those areas, those are the hot growth areas. They said California, I love this joke. He goes, yeah, California will build houses. They'll just be in Boise and Nevada.
Yeah. He was pretty quick on that one.
Yeah. So that's the economic forecast for 2020. And Jason and I will be reporting on other press conferences that we go to and sharing the news that we get with you guys.
Thanks, Al.
I'm here with Matt from Brilliant. And Matt, the first question is, what is Brilliant? When did it get started, and how did it get started? And what's your role here, if you can remember all of those?
Sure, absolutely. So Brilliant is a in-wall smart home control system. We're really a one-of-a-kind on the market today because we make it incredibly affordable for builders and also homeowners to have an integrated, unified smart home system baked into the walls of their home. So this means really easy access to things like your cameras, your lights, your music, door locks. We make all those things accessible via a touchscreen in your wall, and all you have to do is simply pop out a light switch and drop in our Brilliant control system. We also just announced a smart dimmer switch as part of the system, so now there's a great and easy way to add affordable smart lighting throughout the home. So it's all about making all these great smart home products more accessible and user-friendly to everybody in the home instead of locking them up on a phone, and not everybody has their phone on them. You don't always have the apps on your phone. Let's make all this great technology accessible for everybody in the home and really unify the experience. So that's what Brilliant is. I am Matt Brown, the head of partner and channel marketing here at Brilliant, and very excited to be sharing the news about what we're doing. And I think another exciting thing is we're here at the Builder Show, so builders are starting to really try and figure out how do we wrap our heads around offering the right smart home experience. And typically it's been an option and not necessarily a standard. And so, by offering an affordable control system, our controls are available in 4 models, the touchscreens, a single gang to a 4 gang. So you can actually start to, integrate a home and offer a true smart home for as little as $299. And then you can add some of the components like a Ring doorbell, maybe a smart thermostat, and really offer, a great starter package, for under $1,000, and really offer a truly integrated smart home, which has never been available at a price point that we're able to offer today.
Right. So is that $299 just a starter fee, and then you start picking and choosing? Is that how it works?
Exactly. And so, another great announcement that we're actually just released at the show is our first national distributor. So Wave Electronics is going to be offering builders smart home packages. So we view Brilliant really as the hub and command central for your smart home. So what that means is, it's always better when you've got a smart thermostat, a doorbell, a smart lock, and then we tie that whole experience together for the homeowner to make it really easy to access those experiences directly on your wall or via a single app. So Brilliant also offers an Android and iOS app that unifies the smart home experience, so you don't have to deal with multiple apps. There's just one app you use to control your entire home remotely.
Awesome. Can you walk us through and kind of tell us some of the products that you have here?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're here in our booth, and what you're looking at, just to paint the picture, so we've got several of our Brilliant controls. Again, we offer them in single gang models up to 4 gang models. So this is one of our 3-switch control models. It has a touch screen as well as dimming sliders. So these are non-mechanical way to control lighting. So I just slide my finger up and down to control the lighting load.
And just so I can explain to the audience, basically think about an iPhone screen, but connected to probably 5 inches by 6 inches. So there's the iPhone screen on the left, and then 3 just grooves, notches that your finger fits in. I'm doing it right now, and I'm turning up the lighting on this booth. I am messing with the hue, and then I am is this?
You're controlling Sonos volume. So this is a really unique feature. You can map these sliders to control different experiences in the home, not just lights. You can control shades, you can control music. So a really powerful way to offer simple one-touch access to a variety of smart home experiences. And then what we're viewing right now, someone just rang the Ring doorbell, and we actually see that live video feed pop up on the touch screen on every control in the house. So now if you don't have your phone on you, or people who don't have the Ring app, they can actually answer the door from anywhere in the home from our touchscreen. And if you have a smart lock, from that same interface, you can just hit unlock and let that person in if it's a family member or a package. So it's just another great way that we're adding a lot of value to the Ring experience.
Yep.
Other things to showcase, music. Sonos is our partner. So with a couple of taps, you can see all of the playlists that are available via Pandora, Spotify. Just load them up into My Sonos. All of those become accessible to everybody in the home. A few other nice features. There's actually a motion sensor and a camera built into every Brilliant control. So that unlocks a couple of great experiences. One is motion-activated lighting. So now when someone enters a room, we can automatically turn on the lights for you, depending on what time of day it is. And when it senses that there's no one in the room anymore, we can actually turn the lights off. So there's a lot of energy efficiency that you can get from installing a smart home and lighting system like Brilliant. And then the integrated camera as well. So this unlocks the ability to actually see what's going on in other rooms. So if you have one of these maybe in a child's bedroom, you can use it as a nanny cam. You can also broadcast audio announcements throughout the home, like call the family down for dinner if you have a multi-story home. One way that I actually like to use it, my wife is often at home but doesn't pick up her phone. So I actually pull out the Brilliant app and then send an audio announcement to the whole home. Honey, please pick up your phone. I'm trying to reach you. Or she can come to the Brilliant control and I can interact with her that way. So
that happens. The same thing with my wife.
Yep.
Multiple times.
Exactly right. And then our smart dimmer switch, these are available to builders as low as $55 when you buy them in bulk. But again, that simple groove and then capacitive touch, so you can just tap the switch anywhere on the faceplate to turn lights on and off. And there's also an integrated motion sensor there as well. So another really great way that I use the smart lighting at home is I've got a few of these installed, in my bedroom to bathroom. So when I crawl out of bed at night to go to the bathroom, it actually turns on and lights a pathway for me at a very dim level to get to the bathroom without tripping in the dark and without blinding yourself by flipping on the bathroom light. So a lot of really interesting experiences that you can unlock with motion and then with camera and intercom, and really just unify the whole home experience.
Yep. If someone has, let's say they bought a Nest, or they have an Alexa, does this work together? Does it not work together? Does it all have to be your stuff? How does that?
Yeah, great question. So every control has integrated Alexa built in, and it operates like an Echo Show. So you actually get visual responses on our screen, which is great. So when you ask for the weather, you're not just getting an auditory response, you're actually seeing a weather forecast displayed on the screen. So it's nice to have both auditory and visual feedback as part of the experience. And we also do support Google Home, and HomeKit support is coming in a couple of months. So those are all experiences that we integrate and support. And I think the way we view smart home is it really needs to be an open ecosystem. We want to allow home builders as well as the home buyers themselves to select the right products in all of these categories, whether it's thermostat, whether it's locks, whether it's music, cameras. We want to make sure that we're unifying the experience, but allowing everyone to pick and choose the products that make the most sense for them. And I think this is where we see smart home going, and are really fortunate to be working with some of the great partners that you see here, like Sonos, Ring, and others.
To wrap it up, Matt, any parting things you want to share? And then also, if a home builder or an architect wants to start this process, what's the best way to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what we're seeing here is helping builders figure out the right standard packages to start installing. Oftentimes it's a few Brilliant controls, get smart lighting in a few rooms with our dimmer switches, and then make sure there's a great security experience with Ring and a smart door lock, and then a smart thermostat. There's a lot of energy savings that they get from lighting, from climate, and then the benefit of having better security throughout the home. So So, really just, trying to help builders understand and figure out how to make their homes inherently smart from the get-go, and it can now be done incredibly affordably. And so there's really no reason now, to, make smart home an option. Like it is a standard, and Brilliant is here to help builders, kind of tie it all together. In terms of, getting started, there's a few great ways to do it. One is just visit brilliant.tech. We've got a tab on our site for builders to learn more and get in touch with us. You can do that by sending us a note to pros@brilliant.tech. Or another great way is through your integrator or installer. If you currently work with one, they often have a way to get to distribution and help you pick the right ecosystem. Or you can also talk to Wave Electronics now, and they offer smart home packages featuring Brilliant and other popular products like Ring and Sonos and Schlage and Honeywell and some of our other great partners.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot. It was good meeting you.
Yeah, you as well. Appreciate the time, guys.
Yep. So I'm here at Simpson Strong Tie at the International Building Show with David. And if you know anything about Simpson, you think about connections, you think about shear, you think about transferring forces, you think about strong ties, all that stuff, but you don't think about Revit. So, David, why am I here at Simpson talking about Revit?
So Simpson has in its mission statement to create safer, stronger structures through its products. And most recently, we changed that to have solutions to provide safer, stronger structures. And so with those solutions in mind, one thing we did was we really started to figure out what were the builders' needs, where's the building industry heading, and where does that really fit with us in the software world. So Revit we see it as the future of BIM, it's the future of modeling, it's the future of residential construction. It's really starting to take off.
Yeah. So how did Simpson get into Revit? Because they're not a software company.
Yeah, Simpson acquired a company called CG Visions, it's been around since about 2000, and CG Visions really focused on production home builders that were trying to do BIM modeling and option management specifically. So these are portfolio builders that have, maybe 13 structural options, but that could create 100 and something iterations of different possible outcomes.
Okay, cool. So show me, what do you have up here? So we have a laptop and Revit's on there. It looks like a typical project where, at a site plan view or?
Yeah, so we're looking at a first floor view. This kind of looks like, we call it the village, but it's one house that we're looking at blown up. So if you've ever seen Iron Man, you know that scene where he takes that orb and he kind of explodes it and he's inside of it.
Yep.
Think of that as your house. That's what we're kind of looking at. This thing's all apart, and then he goes through the selection process of taking out what he doesn't want, throws it all back into one, and that's what we end up with, through a selection process of getting a lot-specific drawing. And more specifically, with Revit, we can get a lot-specific set of takeoff information.
Gotcha. So is this something that home builders send to you guys? Is this something that architects or home builders should be using themselves?
So yeah, that's a great question. We work a lot with the builders themselves, so the production home builders, the top 200 plus, really, if they work off of a portfolio, it works for them. We work with architecture firms and engineering firms that also do this. So really, it's those ones that are trying to manage structural options, including, we're starting to get into more of the multifamily or the garden-style apartment complexes. A couple builders that do that. This really does work in that facility as well. It doesn't have to work on that XY axis anymore.
Gotcha. Is there a demo you want to show us?
Sure. Yeah. So, it's one of the things that I just talk about in general is how all the different ways you can option. You can basically move it from one place to another. That's the most simple version of it. I'm going to turn this on. It looks like mission control.
So he's on a new tab. It's called Lot Spec. So this is probably an add-on.
This is an add-on, yep. It's an add-on for Revit. We also have the same thing I'm showing you in AutoCAD.
Yep.
And then what this allows basically is for all these different rules that would exist to, it looks like a missile control here that...
Yeah, so what I'm seeing, can you zoom in on that? What I assume is...
the core of the house that doesn't change.
So there's a floor plan that I'm looking at, and there's a bunch of red lines that are coming out, basically like if you were sending missiles in random directions if you're getting attacked. Mm-hmm. And if we follow one of those lines, where is one of those lines pointing to?
Yeah, so if you look at this line, it has a rule that's associated to it. And this is going back to another XY axis over here. So in this case, we're looking at the exterior options of it looks like the slab and the walls.
Gotcha.
And then, we have that way of optioning. We have object option, which is kind of an on-off optioning tool. We have the ability to move it on an X, Y, or Z axis. You can change the properties or the type, so if you have a window, instead of having to go through and manually swap them out, you just put a rule in place and say, if elevation B changes to have grid style whatever, and add this kind of mullion, add this kind of trim, all the information that we can do with it is also just automated, and that's the key. I say it's because we're lazy, but I guess laziness sometimes creates innovation, and this is really taken a master set, which would be 150 pages. We've reduced that down, so it takes that manual labor out of creating a master set, and then the job start, which I'll run one here. It does take about 30 seconds to a couple minutes. We're on a demo laptop, so it's not as strong.
So tell them what you're picking.
Sure. So what we're looking at on the screen right now is a bunch of sales options. So in this case, elevation A, B, C. We have 4 different structural options, some floor plan options.
So an example of a structural option would be, you have a garage on the left side, or you have a tandem garage, or a 3. It could be all these sorts of different options. And he had about 4 or 5 categories that he could pick. So we've dealt with this on our firm, where we'll have one house and we might have 5 or 6 options. But once you start to cross-pollinate, that you have elevation A with garage side entry with a 6-bedroom floor plan, a mudroom, and a finished out basement, that's a lot. That grows exponentially.
Yeah.
If you try to have those in different files.
So we have this option wizard that kind of shows, with these 3 options, and then we'll say 9 other structural options that exist. We have 60 possible outcomes with just this small file.
Right.
So when you're talking about a sales team, you can go to the sales team and say, there's 130 possible outcomes. Sell one of those. You don't end up with as many non-standard options and custom options that really creep into the scope of work and the cost for a builder, and really in turn the homeowner in that case.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're going to generate one of these.
We're going to generate a lot-specific drawing. And so I'm just going to select, just at random, a couple different ones, or I could preload a selection of, we'll say elevation A. We're going to add a extension off the 5th bedroom, and we're also going to add a fireplace in this. And as I solve this project, I can choose to solve, all the different views that exist, or if maybe I was just trying to solve and look at the 3D geometry to make sure it fits in, I could do just that part of it. So. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to, just for the sake of time, solve just the first floor view and the 3D view. And what it's doing, it's reading all those rules that were in place, all that missile command rule, all the, change the type, change the properties, turn it on or off, and then all those sales options that said, it's Boolean logic, if-then statements.
Yep.
If this, then that. And as we go through that, this can also be done on a server base. So we have another tool that goes with this called Dispatch. And I can queue up the same process from someone that doesn't even have Revit or AutoCAD on the computer. And it just sits there. And as a sales team or an estimating team, that they don't have to ping the architecture group and say, hey, we need construction documents for the Jamestown with these selected options.
Yep.
They can do it themselves and have it emailed to them.
That's great. While this is processing, so I have to say this is rather forward-looking, and I'm impressed because it's outside your normal area of scope, and it's really looking towards the future. So for Simpson to be doing something like this is amazing, really.
Well, Simpson, it's been around for 60 years, and innovation is one of the key components of who Simpson is. Yeah. We feel that at Simpson, if we're not looking forward, we're going to get left in the dust.
Right.
Our builders are going to also get left in the dust. We preach all the time on the technology side how just non-digital the construction industry still is. I think there's a McKinsey report that we are below mining, but we are above farming, so We've got that.
Yeah.
We've got that on us. So really getting this into a digital age. We know what Autodesk is doing with BIM 360, and Revit. I tell people all the time is not the future. It's really kind of now just the vehicle to get you to the future products of the plan grid and really getting digital on site. And that's a big part of it.
I was talking to a colleague, and a lot of architects know the power of Revit, that you're making a digital twin of the real life thing. It is, when you look at here, yes, there's a scale, but it's actually the size of the house in the computer. And the knowledge that you can bring that from scheduling to quantities to all these other things, and it's not the fault of the construction industry, but they're not taking advantage of it. And this colleague was at a different builder show, and they said, well, wouldn't you like to have a digital twin model where every quantity is there? They're like, yeah, that exists. Like, yeah, that's existed for years. We can do that.
Yeah, and it's little things. When you move a builder from 2D to 3D, it's little things like, oh, the stairs don't fit. Right. I know the field has been telling me that the stairs don't fit, but I just don't believe it because the architecture makes it fit. Yeah. Or the roof pitches, or all these different things that you can kind of fake in the 2D environment.
What we like to do, and maybe you've heard, but we do a 3D view of the foundation, because the foundation, once you get the foundation, you start to build on top of it, and the pieces kind of come together like a puzzle. But sometimes when you have lots that are weird and there's different heights of it, the moment you put a 3D image on there, rather than just looking at a floor plan with height elevations, they'll go back to that floor plan, but they'll see it in concept, and it'll work a lot quicker.
Yeah, so where do we feel like this is heading now? I mean, we have the ability to work in like a LOD 300, really focus on everything from, the walls, the electrical. We're starting to head into the mechanical side of things with the BIM modeling, and it really works, now in conjunction with the truss plants, and if they're able to kick over a IFC file back in, we can really start to collaborate this. And even back into that law spec village where it showed all those different parts and pieces. Think of a builder now being able to pull in the HVAC and the truss and all the information that they know exists in 51 seconds. I think that solve was.
And are you saying it would get to the point where you could pick those options and the HVAC could update itself based off of?
Yep,
exactly. That's amazing. So right now it's generated, I'm looking at a 3D view of a house. It has the levels out there. So this is the house from what you generated. This is those options put together.
Correct. Yeah, and if you go in this first floor view, some of the other things we have the ability, if I would have solved all these, is we would have all these exterior dimensions on here, all of the walls, all of the tags, anything that's associated to this is going to come in because we're really utilizing the BIM side of Revit. And when we talk about option management in Revit, for us, it's the eye that matters. It's the information part of BIM that we have to option out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, any other parting things you want to leave us with? Anything you want to tell our audience about? And how could they go to maybe learn more about this?
Yeah, so they could actually go out to our website. If you go to strongtie.com and you can search or navigate, the actual link to get to lot spec, you can download a 30-day trial in either AutoCAD or Revit. I think we have versions from 2019 to 2020.
Okay.
We have some case studies out there if you kind of wanted to understand it more, and you can always email buildersolutions@strongtie.com, and we could be happy to set up a demo for you.
Cool, awesome. Thanks a lot, David. It was great seeing this.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So we're just back for a quick bonus because you were telling me, David, about what's on the screen that they're presenting to the right.
Yeah, so that's our cloud-based estimating tool called Pipeline. And really there's three models. It's estimating, costing, and purchasing. And we feel like this is another BIM tool that can harness the data that we produced out of Revit. We call them key measures, but it's just these takeoff quantities that can then be produced into dynamic assembly. So imagine, having a simpler BIM model where we don't put in there that it's a specific window manufacturer in the model, which would have a higher LOD, but that way we can have a more generic BIM model that can be more efficient, quicker, and as it passes through pipeline, all of that SKU and quantity data really applies to it there, where then it can facilitate to its back office system or accounting or purchasing system.
Gotcha.
And then associated with that, we also have a sales tool that's on my left here.
That's where I was going. It's like before we leave,
yeah,
maybe there's something
one more
on the left
TV.
screen.
Yeah, that's called Pathway. It's our newest product, and Pathway has a sales selection process that harnesses the same data. So we're not doing any more upload, download of information. It's just a new user interface that allows for the sales team to quickly walk through a selection process. As it moves into pipeline, it'll reconcile, the information that already existed, or you can import quantities back from that BIM model
Right.
to say, hey, let's make sure that we have the exact accurate takeoff we want.
Right. So someone in the sales office could say they have this lot, they're having the den that turns into a master bedroom. They picked all these options, and then it all cycles through the whole suite of different software solutions that you have.
It's the one thing that we really try to do at Simpson is not require all of those to stack up. We want to be able to integrate lot spec if you need to on your architecture side, and pipeline and pathway if you need to for your purchasing side, because that can also use a plan Swift or other on-screen takeoff tools to facilitate that same dynamic assembly.
So you're part of the ecosystem, not isolated.
Exactly. That's
Yep.
best way to put it.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
So we're here with Bob. Bob's been on the podcast, I don't know, at least 2 times.
Yeah,
maybe
2, maybe 3.
Yep. So we're at IBS. I didn't even know you were coming until like a day or 2 ago. Did you even know you were coming until a day or two
No,
ago?
I knew I was coming. I wasn't expecting you guys to be here,
Yeah.
mainly because it's a residential show. But then I pinged Lance last night. We got into a fun Facebook rant.
Good.
And
probably about politics.
yeah, well, politics and Monica Lewinsky and many other things. But we started talking about some random things, and I said, "Oh, by the way, what does your contractor base look like for inside the firm? You guys really should be at IBS." And he just responded. He said, "Al's there."
Yeah.
So I'm like, "All right, cool."
Yeah.
And then
you texted me, and yeah. So and I would say this is great because we haven't come to IBS ever before in our 10 years.
Tragic name.
Yeah, I know. We've been making jokes about it. A shitty situation.
Well, okay, let's take a step backwards from that, and let's talk about A-Rod as the opening speaker.
Well, do you know who it was going to be before? It was going to be Magic Johnson.
It was going to be Magic Johnson.
And I was so stoked because that's when I was a kid playing basketball. That's who I would be. Yeah, instead of Jordan, I'd say Magic Johnson on people.
Well, but I'm looking at it with, you saw the housing starts, I'm sure.
The starts?
The housing starts this year. I mean, they're the highest they've ever been. It's like they're on steroids.
Yes.
So who better than the A-Rod?
Yes. He's crushing it.
He's
crushing it. So we left before that. And Jason will talk about the intro a little bit later and all that, but you were there for A-Rod.
I actually missed it. I was on the way in.
Oh, you're just making jokes.
But hey, I have no interest in seeing A-Rod. I'm a Sox fan. So.
Yeah. How many times have you been here before?
Yeah, I've been here about 5-6 times.
Okay. What do you think is valuable about it? Why do you come, and why did you come this time?
Well, I mean, the first time I came, my background. I started life as a contractor, then worked with manufacturers. I mean, the first time I came as a contractor years ago to learn about new products and to find out what's going on, stay current in the industry. Then I came as an exhibitor with GAF when I worked for them.
Yes. Yep.
And then, basically as an exhibitor, for software and service. And now I walk around to talk to the manufacturers because, I'm trying to get in front of them with some new solutions to help them sell their products and integrate better. Because libraries aren't cutting it anymore. You need a better solution. So, I've been an independent, and I'll probably always be an independent to some degree. But I was offered a great position as Director of Business Development to build an AEC market for a company that has historically been industrial marketing. So, they had been working with Parker Hannifin and Baldor and NKK switches. So when you're making products, so it's like the micro design. If you want to build a product, and just like you model a building in BIM, you're modeling product, whether it's a
connection.
circuit board or a pump.
Yep.
You're building all of the parts from other parts. You're building your product from other parts.
Yes.
And then your product might end up going into a bigger product. It's this whole, circle of life, I guess.
Right.
Of PLM, product life cycle.
And that's what you're doing here. You're talking about that, and you have a solution for that.
I do. We have Cadena's Part Solutions. What we're doing is, instead of building in one platform like Revit, you build your content in Revit, and then all the Revit users can use it, and that's great. But Revit is popular in commercial construction.
Yes.
But it hasn't made the same impact in residential. And you're probably seeing that. I mean, you guys are a Revit shop.
Right.
But isn't that a competitive advantage?
Yes.
Because everyone else is using kind of other pieces of software that are not as capable.
And exactly. And they're still using AutoCAD, which is crazy to me, but that's their own pickle, whatever they want to do.
Exactly. People evolve at their own rate.
Yep.
And because of that, we run a CAD engine in Germany that exports to 150 different file formats. And it all starts from the geometry that we build in our own native software.
But I have to ask you an honest question, because I know you know a lot about Revit. So you know the pitfalls if you start from something else and you go to, I'll pick on Revit City for right now.
Yep.
And it was a SolidWorks model, and it comes in, you can't even change the color of it.
Right.
That, let alone anything else.
Right.
So it's kind of useful for half a second, and then it's not useful anymore.
Well, but then we have to start asking the question of whether we're building BIM or we're visualizing.
Right.
Because if we're building BIM, it could be blocks and bricks, and it will fit the needs of BIM. But BIM, as we know it, has evolved to include visualization. The workaround for that, now, our solution does not work for every single product.
Right.
And what we're not trying to do is reinvent the wheel and reinvent how geometry is built. What we're doing is we're offering a solution to take if you have Revit files, we can start with those and reverse engineer them into our system so that they can be exported out to all the other file formats.
Right.
STEP becomes the interchange for that.
Yep.
Now, the pitfalls and one of the classic beliefs is that if it's not modeled in Revit, it's going to, cause divorce.
It's just going to be junk.
It's going to be junk, and it's not true. I see more and more social media advertising coming direct from Autodesk saying, build your models in Inventor and export them out as Revit files. They've got an entire marketing strategy around that. That tells me that Autodesk has embraced external file formats outside of Revit.
And I think you're true, because I think you were there at Autodesk U, not last year, but the year before. And they were all talking about this integration, the Fusion 360, where it goes from Inventor to SolidWorks.
Yeah, they're any
Fusion
CAD
3D.
platform.
Yep, and then it's translating into milling, to 3D printing, all that stuff. So maybe what I was basically saying is still true, but was more true back in the day.
Right.
And it's now becoming more of a shareable ecosystem.
Honestly, it's more of a perception. There's a perception that it will cause problems with your model. It will, it will corrupt it. It will cause you to get a divorce and kill your cat. All of these things don't happen.
It's just an excuse to kill your cat.
Exactly.
You really want to.
I hear you. Yeah. I hear you. But that's, the CAD engine is sort of the end of the line. What we're really focused on is B2B marketing improvement. So focus on your own website. As a manufacturer, focus on your own website. I mean, the AIA proved it in a study that showed that 85% of manufacturers want to get their product data from the manufacturer's website. So, this is really where you should be focusing your efforts, is enhancing the digital experience on your own site.
Right.
So we build a configurator tool, a 3D visualizer, and a CAD engine all hooked together so that you can configure a complete part parametrically.
Right.
Visualize it on screen to make sure it's what you want, and then export it out to whatever file format you need, whether it's Inventor, SolidWorks, because a lot of these products and a lot of these projects, while at the end of the day, the whole project is done in Revit, there are components like panelization. Revit falls apart when you try to panelize anything.
Yes.
So a lot of the panelization is actually being done in Inventor and then being imported in as either an IFC or a step file, something that it can translate to. Now you can export directly from Inventor as an RFA file. But the reality is that when you look at that RFA file, inside it is a direct shape model, which is no different than what we're doing. So we're just using a different platform to do it.
Right.
A direct shape is just a fancy way of saying a fixed solid.
Yep.
And it's it does nothing, it does nothing to hurt your model. All it does is give you a better option for your own website and gives you more flexibility with the content you offer.
I want to go on a tangent and then circle back. And
Sure.
the tangent is the websites, because you are correct where I want Jason, we're talking about some product, I'll tell him or he'll know to go to that website, manufacturer, find their specs, but it's normally a maze. And this is why it's a tangent, because I don't know if it applies directly to you, but do you ever follow college football?
A little bit.
Okay. If you ever go to like Kansas State or North Dakota State's football webpage, the same, I swear to God, the same company makes it. It looks up, one's green, one's purple, one's red if you're Ohio State, but it has the same format. I'm sure some company got together and be like, we make these for everyone, we'll customize it, but it's within the system. It's very logical when I go to other teams that it's like roster, schedule, it's the 4 basic things. It's really clear. I wonder if manufacturers need something like that, where one company says, you can customize it a little bit, or maybe greatly, but we're always gonna have this. And that's why I asked you, like, is this something that you're pursuing, someone's pursuing? Because
industrial marketing's been doing this for 20 years. It's been, we've got like 1,000 manufacturers in industrials that all have more or less the same looking and feeling product page experience.
Right.
So as you go in, you understand what you need to do.
Go. Yep.
Or where you need to go, what you need to do, and it's mind mapping. It's mental, muscle memory. So you can do it in your sleep. Bringing that environment into the construction world will certainly cut down the amount of time it takes for anybody in your firm to be able to find the products that they're looking for.
Right.
But a lot of that comes down to IT departments wanting to have control over how this is set up and web formats changing on this and that. So what we do is we build iframes that you can syndicate out anywhere you want. The cool thing is that you can syndicate further than just your own website and any like side sites you have.
Explain an iframe.
Okay, well, an iframe basically is a piece of programming code that allows you to embed like a YouTube video the same way. It's no different. When you get in, quote, embed code somewhere, that's an iframe.
Yep.
So you can just find a piece of real estate on your website and drop the iframe there, and then all of a sudden you've got this whole user experience built in.
Yep.
It's as simple as that, and that's the elegance of it, is that IT doesn't have to do a lot because we're not trying to bust budgets to do this. We're trying to make it simple, cost-effective, and easy to use.
Gotcha. So to circle back on the Weygants, what is an ideal customer for you? Maybe one that you don't have, and what is the benefits that you bring, wrapping it up in kind of a story?
Well, I mean, a customer that is looking to enhance their digital experience, somebody who wants to put a little sizzle on their website, and also at the same time, I mean, it's got to be B2B, because that's really what these tools are about. The high resolution, photorealistic perfection that you see on like Geldwen's got one,
right,
and GAF's got one that can show you exactly what shingles will look like on your house. That's great, but I want to know
B2C.
Right, and that's good for B2C. What we're doing is kind of like B2B2C, where we're helping manufacturers help their contractors get in front of owners with better tools. So when they can walk onto a customer's job site and with an iPad and be able to configure the exact product and then be able to visualize it and throw it up in AR right in front of them, that's a powerful tool.
Yeah.
And that's what we're offering. It's been done in industrial, just as we learned just architecture and engineering learned from aerospace 15 years ago, we should take the same lesson again in presentation on websites. Because if you go to Parker Hannifin, Eaton, Emerson, NKK, Samtech, all of these industrial manufacturers, you're going to see their presentation to help OEM sales is tremendous. Now, architecture is kind of the same thing as OEM sales in that you're like a manufacturer is trying to get in front of an architect to influence the sale that a contractor is going to make. Because at the end of the day, how much did your firm buy in products last year? And architecture side.
Yep, not the building. 0 point a printer maybe. You get where I'm going with this.
The point is that while architects influence a sale, at the end of the day, it's the contractor that makes the purchase and has arguably equal or more influence than the architect, because I can break a spec. If I can come in 4 weeks early, 4% less, I just broke your spec.
Yep, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
So anything we missed that you want to cover, and then what do you want to leave people with to maybe look into how to find what you're talking about, how to contact or connect?
Well, I mean, for architects, the real...
And we have a variety of listeners.
So. I know. Well, I mean, I was going to kind of go through. You got architects, I could see one thing, contractors another. I mean, with architects, really, expect more from the manufacturers. You're influencing the sale, and you're picking their products. They should be helping you do that. They should be giving you the best tools possible to make your job easier. For contractors, if manufacturers don't have these tools that help you put submittal packages together in seconds, and you've got to sit around and cull through documents for an hour versus 8-9 seconds, tell the manufacturers, hey, I really need a set of tools that are going to help me sell. Something like this would do it. Owners, hey, if you're looking for better tools, let people know. But know that Revit is not the only tool out there. And in residential space especially, there's a ton of tools out there. What we're doing is catering to all of them, not just one.
Cool. And where should they go to look this up?
You can go to partsolutions.com. Since we're not a library, we're not like a site aggregator.
Right.
But what we do have is 96 different portals. Like, we're baked into Inventor, we're baked into Fusion, we're baked into SolidWorks to get all of these parts. But at the same time, if you want to find it, you can go to partcommunity.com, and you'll be able to see all of the manufacturers that we've got out there. Some content is kind of like we're putting it out there to wet their whistle, since we're new to the AEC market, and it's my job to build this market.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give people the best experience, and feedback. We'd love feedback. Any information that would help us steer our ship into the direction that you as an architect, or you as a manufacturer, or you as a contractor, how can we help you? Because we want to be the best solutions provider for you and build the best websites for the manufacturers so that everybody does their job more effectively.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
You got it. Thanks, Al.